Boom. Their illusions shattered, their screens cracked, their jaws dropped in disbelief. They scrolled, they clicked, they laughed, but nah, not anymore, not after this. Your past just detonated online. Wow, and left their minds in ruins, pieces scattered everywhere like broken glass on the floor. Do you hear it? The silence after the storm, the tension that burns heavier than their loudest noise. Yeah, it's real. The truth hit harder than a punch, harder than any lie they ever swallowed. They wanted gossip. They wanted entertainment. They wanted cheap drama. But oh, they didn't get what they expected. They got devastation. Every headline is bleeding. Every comment section is on fire. Every mind is trapped in a loop they can't escape. And you're standing right here, untouchable, undeniable, unstoppable. The very storm they swore would never come crashing through their screens. Your mask didn't slip, it shattered. That's how it began for you. Not with whispers, not with rumors, with an explosion so loud it rattled the walls of their illusions. Your past wasn't uncovered, it was detonated. A single truth dropped like a hammer, and suddenly the world they thought they understood collapsed into dust. Oh, the irony. They thought you were just another face, another disposable piece of the crowd. But when the curtain was torn back, when the files, the history, the scars, all screamed your name in unison, they couldn't look away, because you weren't what they expected. You were worse, you were sharper, you were undeniable. For years, they believed the stories fed to them. The edited photos, the watered-down narratives, the diluted version of you that made them comfortable. But what happens when comfort is ripped from their hands? What happens when the real story surfaces, raw and unpolished, dripping with the kind of truth that scorches skin? Wow. They froze. They panicked. They scrolled with trembling fingers, praying the next headline, the next clip, the next post would somehow soften the blow. But it didn't. Every word was heavier than the last. Every revelation more cutting. Every fact more destructive than their fragile minds could contain. And here's the brutal part. They wanted this. They begged for it. They stalked shadows, poked into corners, obsessed with finding dirt. Well, congratulations. They dug so deep they unearthed something they can't bury again. They wanted the truth, and the truth has teeth. Now they stand in silence. Screens glowing, timelines burning, voices cracking under the weight of knowing they were wrong about you. The internet, the empire of noise they trust so blindly, couldn't process your reality. Algorithms fried, narratives broke, influence shattered. Because when your past came roaring into the present, it didn't just reveal you, it revealed them. Their cowardice, their hypocrisy, their weakness, and that's what destroys them. Not who you were, not what you did, but the fact that your existence alone is a mirror reflecting their failures. They stare at you and see the proof that their rules never mattered, that their walls were made of paper. Yeah, paper. Easily burned, easily torn, easily forgotten. They wanted entertainment. They got an execution. They wanted gossip. They got revelation, and revelation once unleashed cannot be undone. Do you understand the weight of that? When your past identity is exposed, it doesn't crawl politely into the room, it storms in, flips the table, and demands attention. Nah, they can't ignore it. They can't laugh it off. They can't scroll past it. It hijacks their thoughts. It rewires the way they see everything. Suddenly, every interaction they had with you before this day changes meaning. Every memory bends under the new light. Every judgment they made is turned into a weapon against them. And they hate it. Oh, they hate it. Because they can't control it. That's why the reveal shook the internet. It wasn't just news, it was a rupture. A tear in the narrative that people cling to in order to feel safe. And when that illusion is broken, people break with it. They scream, they rage, they retreat. But none of that matters, because the truth doesn't care about their coping. The truth already won. So now the question lingers in the smoke, whispering like a blade across their throats. If the past shook them this badly, what happens when your present unleashes its full force? If the past was enough to break them, imagine what the present will do. That's the thought burning in your chest right now. They collapsed under the weight of yesterday, and yesterday was just the opening move. You've barely begun to show them who you are today. Oh, they think they've already seen the worst of you, but they don't understand. Your past was only the shadow, the echo, the discarded skin. What you carry now is sharper, heavier, untamed, and that terrifies them. Because if the ghost of who you once were shattered their illusions, then the living force standing here today will erase their entire narrative. They can't handle growth. They can't handle transformation. To them, change is betrayal. Evolution is a crime. But you didn't just change. You sharpened. You endured fire, pressure, exile, whispers. And instead of breaking, you became a blade. Wow, that's what strikes them hardest. Not the mistakes, not the scars, but the undeniable truth that you survived what should have ended you. They look at you now and realize something horrifying. You're not a victim of your past. You're the weapon forged from it. And that truth cuts deeper than anything you ever said or did. They scroll, they click, they gossip. But deep down, they know the screen can't contain you. Their comments are flimsy shields. Their outrage is hollow noise. Every insult they throw only confirms their fear that you are not playing by their script anymore. Yeah, the script is dead, and when the script dies, the audience panics. Do you feel the shift? The silence between their words? That silence is fear. The fear that no matter what they expose, no matter what they scream, you won't fall back, you'll rise higher. And rising higher is the one thing they cannot accept, because it proves they never had power over you in the first place. Nah, they can't process that. They wanted you trapped in the role of the exposed one, the fallen one, the canceled one. But instead you stand taller, louder, more unshakable than ever. And that is what breaks their minds. Not the reveal itself, not the headlines, but the realization that the reveal only fueled you. It didn't end you, it ignited you. Oh, the irony. They dug up your past to bury you. Instead, they uncovered the foundation of something they can't destroy. And here's the question twisting in their stomachs, the one they'll never say out loud but will never stop thinking. If your past was this devastating, what happens when your future arrives? The future isn't coming quietly. It's coming with teeth. That's the part they can't wrap their heads around. Your past already melted their screens, cracked their timelines, shredded their stability. But the future? That's not a reveal. It's an invasion. Oh, you feel it in your chest. A storm that doesn't ask permission. A force that doesn't wait for approval. And the cruelest twist? They know it's inevitable. They're haunted by the idea that what destroyed them yesterday is only a fragment of what tomorrow carries. They whisper in circles trying to predict your next move, but prediction is useless when the rules don't apply to you anymore. You've slipped through their grasp. You've stepped outside the frame, and nothing terrifies people more than someone they cannot predict, cannot control, cannot silence. They wanted your past to be the peak, the climax, but it was only the prologue. The real story begins now. And wow, they hate that, because the internet thrives on endings. It loves to point at a headline, declare a finale, and move on to the next spectacle. But you didn't give them an ending, you gave them a beginning. You forced them to watch as their so-called closure unraveled into a new chapter they weren't prepared to read. You see, survival is one thing, resurrection is another, and transformation? That's a whole different battlefield. You didn't just rise from the ashes, they're choking on the smoke. Every move you make now, every word you release, feels heavier, sharper, louder because it carries the weight of that past they tried to bury you with. You turned their weapon into your shield. You turned their exposure into your armor. Yeah, that's the nightmare they're living in right now, because the internet doesn't forget. But instead of haunting you, the memory now haunts them. Each time they see your name, they remember how wrong they were. Each time they see your face, they recall how their empire of noise failed. And every second you continue to rise is a reminder that they lost the war they thought they won. Nah, they can't spin this one, they can't rewrite the ending, they can't edit the footage. Because the truth is no longer theirs to manipulate, it's yours to weaponize. And that's the true devastation. Not the headlines, not the scandal, but the fact that you took control of the narrative they tried to use against you. You seized it, bent it, sharpened it, and turned it back toward them. And now they live with the dread that tomorrow will be worse than today. Tomorrow you'll be stronger, bolder, more untouchable than you were the day before. Tomorrow, you'll show them that their attempt to break you was nothing more than the blueprint for your dominance. Oh, the delicious irony. They wanted to erase you, but all they did was immortalize you. So the question claws at them in the silence, gnawing at their sanity. If the future is this dangerous, what happens when you decide to unleash it without restraint? Restraint is the only chain left, and chains don't last forever. That's what keeps them awake at night. The knowledge that you've held back, that everything they've seen so far, the storms, the revelations, the chaos, wasn't you unleashed, it was you restrained. Oh, imagine the panic if the controlled version of you shattered their platforms. What happens when you stop holding back? You know the answer. So do they. That's why their voices tremble, why their eyes avoid the camera, why their posts drip with desperation. Because restraint is fragile, and they sense yours slipping. They sense that soon the force they tried to bury will come crashing down with no filter, no hesitation, no ceiling. And wow, that terrifies them more than anything else. Not the past, not even the future itself, but the realization that you are capable of deciding when and how to unleash it. Control has shifted. Power is yours. They are reduced to spectators, waiting helplessly for the next strike. And nothing strips people of their illusions faster than the feeling of being powerless in a game they once thought they ran. Yeah, they thought they could manage you, spin you, reduce you to a hashtag, a trend, a moment. But moments fade, and you didn't fade. You multiplied. You grew louder, stronger, sharper, feeding on every attempt to cut you down. What they unleashed to end you became the fuel that built you. They wrote the script, but you rewrote the ending. Nah, they never imagined this. They thought exposure was destruction. They thought history was a prison, but you turned it into a weapon, a fortress, a throne. And now restraint is the only thing between them and total collapse. That single thread of patience, of choice, of timing, and threads. Threads snap. The beauty is, you don't need to swing wildly. You don't need to scream. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. All you need to do is keep existing. Keep walking forward. Keep sharpening your steps. Because every step you take reminds them of their failure to silence you. Every word you speak reminds them of their weakness to contain you. And every silence you hold drags them deeper into paranoia, waiting for the moment it all drops again. Oh, the dread. That's what breaks them now. Not what you've done, but what you might do next. That suspense eats at them, chews through their confidence, erodes their false power. They're not living in control, they're living in fear of the inevitable. So the stage is set, the silence is trembling, and the only question left is the one that turns their fear into nightmare. When the final restraint breaks, who will survive the storm you become? The storm you feared isn't coming. It's already here. That's the truth, pounding in their skulls now. They prayed your exposure would end you, that your past would chain you, that your name would drown in noise. But look around. Oh, they can't believe it. Instead of silence, there's thunder. Instead of collapse, there's uprising. And in the middle of it all, you stand, unshaken, turning every broken expectation into fuel. They don't know what to do anymore. Do they attack harder? Do they hide? Do they wait? Each choice feels like walking barefoot on glass, because every move against you sharpens your edge. Every strike makes you stronger. Every attempt to corner you only proves that you can't be cornered. And wow, that's what terrifies them. Not your past, not even your present, but the fact that nothing they do can slow what's coming next. You've stepped out of the box they built for you, burned the script they wrote for you, and now you move without permission, without hesitation, without fear. The internet wasn't ready for that. The people scrolling in their rooms weren't ready for that. And the ones who thought they could manage the damage weren't ready for that. Because damage was never the point. Growth was. And growth, once unleashed, doesn't stop. Yeah, that's the part that breaks them most. They see you standing in the open. No chains, no mask, no apology. And they realize you've become the storm they can't predict. They want certainty, but you offer chaos. They want closure, but you offer continuation. They want an ending, but you are the beginning of something they cannot control. Nah, they can't contain that. They can't package it, can't market it, can't censor it. You don't fit into their algorithms anymore. You crash them. You don't play their game. You flip the board, scatter the pieces, and build a new game where only you know the rules. And every time you move, they're reminded that you don't need their approval to exist. You never did. Oh, the irony. The very thing they tried to use to bury you has become the spotlight they can't dim. They wanted to drag you down into shame, but all they did was lift you into power. And now every headline, every whisper, every comment is free advertisement for your rise. This is the storm unleashed, your past revealed, your present sharpened, your future inevitable. The truth didn't break you. It broke them. It fractured their illusions, shattered their control, and left them drowning in fear of what comes next. And here's the final sting. They still think this is about your past. They still think the story ends there. But you know better. You know the reveal wasn't your destruction, it was your ignition. It wasn't the end of your name. It was the birth of your legend. So let them panic. Let them run. Let them scream. None of it matters anymore because the storm is here, and nothing they do will ever stop it. The only question left echoing in their hollow silence is the one that gnaws at their core, the one they'll never escape. If this is only the beginning, what happens when the legend of you refuses to end? And now, look at them, scattered, broken, whispering your name in the shadows like it's forbidden truth? Oh wow, the same ones who mocked, doubted, laughed. Yeah, they're the ones choking on silence now. You didn't just reveal your past, you buried their illusions. You set fire to their comfort zones. You showed them that masks can burn and lies can bleed. Nah, this wasn't just a reveal, it was a reckoning. A reminder that history always finds its way back to the surface, louder than their denial, sharper than their fake smiles, and they can't escape it. The internet will move on. Trends will fade. Feeds will refresh. But the scar you left, oh, it's permanent. They said it couldn't be done. They said it was impossible. They told you to settle, to wait, to follow the rules, to obey the boundaries they had drawn for themselves. And for a long time, you believed them. You looked at the walls around you and assumed they were permanent. You looked at the limits others set and convinced yourself they were laws. You lived in hesitation, in doubt, in the quiet resignation that whispered, "This is as far as it goes." But then the evidence appeared. Not a rumor, not a suggestion, not a half-hearted claim. Hard, undeniable, unyielding proof that shattered the reality you had been living in. And the first reaction is disbelief. Your mind resists it. You try to rationalize it. You tell yourself it must be an exception. It must be a fluke. But the more you examine it, the more it persists. And the chill spreads when you realize it is true. This evidence changes everything. They told you to wait. They told you to be patient. They told you that time would reveal the truth, that effort without approval was meaningless, that the world only rewarded those who followed its predictable rules. For a long time, you believed them. You shaped your actions around their expectations, measured your worth by the reflection of their gaze, and adjusted your ambition to fit within the boundaries they understood. You learned to move carefully, to shrink your presence, to bend yourself until you were barely recognizable, even to yourself. And in doing so, you unknowingly built a cage around your potential, a prison disguised as safety, a comfort zone that felt secure because everyone else approved of it. Then the evidence arrived. Not subtle, not suggestive, hard, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. At first, it shocked you because it didn't fit within the narrative you had been told to accept. It didn't align with the rules, the limits, or the conventions that had kept you restrained. The first reaction is almost always disbelief. Your mind searches desperately for a loophole, a rationalization, a reason why this proof doesn't apply. But it persists. Its presence is cold, relentless, and uncompromising. It exposes a truth that cannot be denied. Everything you thought you knew about what was possible has been wrong. The chill comes when you realize what this means. Every choice you had made under the old assumptions, every compromise, every moment of hesitation, every act of self-limitation now looms large. The evidence shows you how far you've been holding yourself back, how much energy you wasted bending to expectations that were never yours to uphold. It makes you confront the brutal reality that while you were waiting for validation, others were quietly advancing, claiming victories you assumed were beyond reach. The discomfort is piercing because it demands acknowledgement, and acknowledgement demands change. But there is a dangerous power in that moment, because once you see it, once you recognize the gap between limitation and possibility, you cannot unsee it. The evidence forces a choice: retreat into the comfort of ignorance, or rise into the terrifying clarity of reality. The world does not pause while you decide. It does not wait for courage or permission. And the awareness that everything you assumed is being rewritten sends a chill down the spine, not of fear alone, but of raw, undeniable potential. This evidence changes everything because it strips away illusions. It exposes the rules that were never meant for you, the ceilings that were artificially imposed, the lies that made you believe restraint was safety. And in that exposure, you are left with something both frightening and exhilarating: the opportunity to act without excuses, to pursue without hesitation, to evolve without permission. The first step is acceptance, and acceptance is not comfortable. It is the recognition that your past compliance cannot dictate your future. That realization is sharp, cutting, and necessary, for in it lies the seed of transformation. Once you confront it fully, the evidence no longer frightens, it empowers. It becomes a weapon against the inertia of your former self, a blueprint for action, and a map for mastery. It shows you what is possible when you stop waiting, stop conforming, and start moving decisively. And the chill remains, not as a warning, but as a reminder the world you knew is gone, the rules have shifted, and only those who respond will survive and thrive. This is the moment where potential meets truth, where hesitation ends, and where the impossible begins to feel inevitable. Revelation comes when you realize that this evidence doesn't just expose possibilities, it exposes truths about everyone around you. It strips away the comforting illusions that people often hide behind the facades of competence, the excuses for mediocrity, the rationalizations for inaction. You start seeing clearly who is playing it safe, who is settling for the ordinary, who is bound by fear masquerading as prudence. The chill deepens when you understand that most of the world operates within self-imposed limits, clinging to repetition and predictability because it is easier than confronting the reality of their own stagnation. And now, with this evidence in your hands, the gap between their constrained existence and your potential becomes undeniable. It's uncomfortable because it forces honesty, not the polite, convenient honesty people display in conversation, but the brutal, unflinching truth that stares back at you when distractions fall away. You see that those who criticized you, doubted you, or ignored you were not enemies. They were reflections of fear, mirrors showing what happens when ambition is sacrificed for conformity. And you feel the chill because you realize that their limitations are not external obstacles. They are warnings of what you risk becoming if you fail to act decisively. The evidence doesn't just illuminate opportunity. It exposes the consequences of hesitation, the cost of comfort, the price of mediocrity. The intensity of this realization comes from the clarity it provides. You begin to see patterns where before there was noise. You understand the mechanics of success, not as a theory, but as a tangible structure waiting to be leveraged. Every conversation, every observation, every small piece of proof fits into a larger framework, revealing a system that you can manipulate if you are willing to embrace it fully. The chill is not just a warning, it is a signal of power, a prelude to the control you can exert over your circumstances if you refuse to be constrained by the inertia of the world around you. And yet, this clarity is isolating. As you awaken to the truth, you notice the distance growing between you and those who cannot comprehend it. They don't reject you out of malice. They reject comprehension itself, retreating to the familiar patterns that protect them from the discomfort of possibility. Their gaze fades, their engagement wanes, and for the first time, you are forced to operate without the safety net of validation. The chill is sharper here, because it reminds you that your ascent is solitary. True change is never communal at first. It demands that you step ahead alone, guided only by the unshakable conviction that the evidence before you is real, actionable, and transformative. In this moment, hesitation becomes the enemy. The gap between inaction and action, between mediocrity and mastery, has never been more visible. The evidence does not allow for indecision. It demands movement, relentless, uncompromising, and intelligent. Every second spent doubting is a second lost to the world that is already in motion. And this is the point where the chill transforms into urgency, a pulse that drives every choice, every action, every step toward claiming what was once unimaginable. Once you embrace this clarity, the evidence no longer terrifies, it empowers. It becomes the lens through which you evaluate every opportunity, every risk, every decision. And in that empowerment lies the dangerous, exhilarating truth: the world is no longer a set of limits. It is a landscape of conquest, waiting for those who refuse to be restrained by ignorance, hesitation, or the comfort of familiarity. As harder than the first. It is not just that the evidence exists, or that it exposes truths about the world and those around you. It is that it exposes truths about yourself. The moment you see it clearly, the realization sinks in. All the hesitation, all the compromises, all the times you held back were not forced upon you by circumstances. They were choices. Choices made out of fear, out of deference, out of the mistaken belief that the world's limits were your own. And now, with this evidence in your hands, there is no longer room for excuses. The chill spreads because the responsibility is yours, entirely and uncompromisingly. You begin to confront the brutal contrast between what you believed you were capable of and what you now know is possible. That contrast is sharp, almost painful, because it casts a harsh light on every moment wasted, every opportunity avoided, every dream postponed. The weight of it is heavy, the realization that the life you have been living was smaller, more cautious, and more constrained than it needed to be. And yet, within that weight lies the spark of liberation. The evidence does not merely point out failure, it illuminates potential. It forces the uncomfortable truth. You have been playing the game of life at half capacity, and now, for the first time, you can operate at full power. The chill is not just introspective, it is transformational. You feel it in your spine, in your pulse, in the way the world suddenly seems both larger and more accessible. The evidence changes the rules. It reveals that the obstacles you feared were often illusions, that the barriers you respected were often self-imposed, that the ceilings you accepted were artificially low. And as you process this, a fierce clarity emerges. You are capable of far more than you allowed yourself to believe. The fear that once restrained you now sharpens into focus, driving you to confront challenges with precision rather than hesitation. This is also where accountability becomes unavoidable. You can no longer blame circumstances, luck, or the limitations of others. The evidence shows you exactly what is possible, and with that knowledge comes the uncompromising truth that your actions, or lack thereof, determine whether you rise or remain stagnant. The chill is necessary. It is the reminder that comfort is deadly, that complacency is fatal, and that mediocrity will consume anyone who refuses to harness the clarity now available. It is a cold, precise signal that the path forward is yours alone to carve. And in that solitude, you discover power. The evidence transforms from a source of fear into a tool of transformation. It gives you insight, it sharpens judgment, it illuminates strategy. Every decision becomes informed, deliberate, and unflinching. The chilling part is that it demands courage. The courage to act decisively in the face of knowledge, the courage to break habits, the courage to leave behind the safety of the familiar. But it is that very courage, forged in confrontation with undeniable truth, that begins to shape a version of yourself that is unstoppable, uncontainable, and relentless. The third revelation is the turning point. You are no longer passive in the face of life. You are no longer bound by fear, by convention, or by self-imposed limits. The evidence has illuminated the path, exposed the stakes, and clarified the potential. And now, with every step forward, the chill transforms from fear into power, reminding you that the world bends to those who act with clarity, decisiveness, and unrelenting force. The moment has arrived, and you cannot ignore it. One that truly changes the way you see the world. It's not just about what the evidence shows you. It's about what it forces others to reveal about themselves. When the truth becomes undeniable, the reactions of those around you become a mirror, reflecting fear, envy, and insecurity in ways that are impossible to ignore. People who once seemed confident, capable, or untouchable suddenly falter. Their bravado fades, their explanations crumble, and the cracks in their facades are exposed. The chill comes when you realize that their discomfort is directly tied to the clarity you now possess, the proof that they have been limited not by circumstances, but by their own refusal to see or act. This moment is unsettling because it reveals a hidden hierarchy. Those who accept truth and act on it rise, while those who cling to delusion, comfort, or avoidance shrink. You begin to notice how easily people conformed, how quickly they settled for mediocrity, and how resistant they were to evidence that challenged their worldview. And you understand, coldly, that their resistance has nothing to do with you. It is entirely about them, about their fear of change, their fear of exposure, their fear of being surpassed. The chill is the awareness that growth and complacency cannot coexist, and those unwilling to evolve will never understand the magnitude of what you now hold. The evidence sharpens your perception of relationships, alliances, and influence. You begin to see who operates out of ambition and intelligence, and who operates out of habit, fear, or ego. Every conversation, every decision, every interaction becomes clearer because you can read the signals beneath the surface, the subtle hesitations, the veiled doubts, the quiet envy. And this clarity is powerful, but it is also isolating. The people who cannot match your understanding drift away, retreating to the comfort of their illusions. The chill intensifies as you realize that your path forward will often be solitary, because the depth of insight you now possess separates you from the crowd. Yet this separation is not punishment, it is opportunity. In the absence of distraction and compromise, you are free to move with precision, to act with intent, to build strategies and take steps that others cannot comprehend or follow. The evidence does not just illuminate possibilities, it grants you leverage over circumstances and over the very people who doubted, resisted, or ignored you. And the chill is the reminder that true power is rarely recognized by those who are unprepared to wield it. They may never applaud, they may never validate, but that does not diminish the force you are creating. What makes this revelation so profound is the intersection of clarity and accountability. You see the world for what it is, and you see people for what they are. You understand that influence, success, and impact are no longer theoretical. They are attainable through action informed by truth. And every moment spent hesitating, every opportunity ignored, is a moment that separates you further from stagnation. The chill serves as a constant, silent companion, reinforcing the stakes, sharpening your focus, and reminding you that only those who act decisively in the face of reality will rise to claim what is possible. In embracing this revelation, you begin to operate with a ruthless clarity. You no longer measure yourself by the approval or comprehension of others. You no longer waste energy convincing those who cannot see. Instead, you move with intent, leverage insight, and harness the undeniable power that comes from understanding both the world and the people within it. The fourth revelation is chilling because it is relentless. It shows you the truth of everything, strips away comfort, and places the responsibility squarely on your shoulders. But within that chill lies the opportunity to become not just different, but unstoppable. Perhaps the most sobering of all, the evidence doesn't just illuminate opportunity and expose truths. It demands transformation. It is no longer enough to simply recognize what is possible, to understand where others falter, or to confront your own past hesitation. The evidence requires action. It insists that you evolve, that you shade every limitation you have carried, and that you rise to the level of clarity and potential it has revealed. And the chill comes when you realize how many have the knowledge but fail to act, how many recognize the path but lack the courage, how many possess insight yet remain stagnant because action is harder than observation. This moment forces brutal honesty with yourself. You can no longer hide behind excuses or defer responsibility to circumstance, luck, or the limitations of others. Every delay, Every compromise, every "I'll try later," is laid bare in the light of what you now know. And that illumination is uncomfortable because it confronts the parts of you that once sought comfort over courage, safety over growth, routine over transformation. The evidence does not forgive hesitation, it exposes it. And the chill sinks deeper when you understand that stagnation in the face of truth is not just costly, it is fatal to potential. Yet within this discomfort lies the spark of power. The evidence becomes a guide, a blueprint for evolution, a map for deliberate transformation. It shows precisely where action is required, where discipline must be applied, where fear must be confronted and conquered. Every insight it provides can be translated into a step forward, a refinement of skill, a sharpening of strategy. But the work is yours alone. No one will act on your behalf. No one will enforce the transformation for you. The chill is the reminder that the responsibility for progress rests entirely on your shoulders, and that the weight of possibility is inseparable from the demand for effort. In this stage, isolation becomes a tool rather than a burden. As you begin to act on the evidence, you will find that many cannot follow, that few can comprehend, and that even fewer will support the intensity of your transformation. The chill is in knowing that the path is solitary, that every step requires commitment, endurance, and relentless focus. But the solitude is also liberating, free from distraction, free from compromise, free from the limits imposed by those unwilling to evolve. You can move with precision and intent, shaping yourself in a way that only truth, informed action allows. The evidence changes everything, because it converts knowledge into responsibility and insight into action. It demands that you confront your weaknesses, refine your strengths, and pursue progress with unflinching determination. The chill is the reminder that comfort is the enemy, delay is the enemy, and indecision is the enemy. But the same chill also signals power. It is the awareness that deliberate, consistent, truth-driven action will produce results that others cannot imagine, that few can achieve, and that even fewer are willing to pursue. This revelation is a turning point. Recognition is no longer enough. Observation is no longer sufficient. Transformation is now mandatory. And in embracing this challenge, in confronting the chill and acting despite it, you begin to step into a version of yourself that is unstoppable, unshakable, and relentless, because the evidence has shown you the truth, and now it compels you to become it. Is the most relentless of all. The evidence does not merely inform, it demands mastery. It is no longer about seeing the possibilities or recognizing the gaps. It is about taking control and imposing your will upon reality itself. The moment you internalize this, the chill spreads deeper because you understand that knowledge without execution is meaningless. Awareness is only the beginning. Insight alone cannot transform your life. It is action, disciplined and unyielding, that turns the evidence into unstoppable force. The world does not care that you understand what is possible. It responds only to those who execute with precision and relentlessness. At first, the weight of this responsibility is overwhelming. Every decision, every movement, every effort is now under scrutiny, not by others, but by yourself. You see clearly that the margin for error is narrow, that hesitation is costly, and that false starts or incomplete attempts will not be tolerated. if you wish to harness the potential laid bare by the evidence. The chill comes not from fear of failure alone, but from the clarity that shows exactly how much work is required to rise above the ordinary, to surpass complacency, and to dominate your circumstances. There is no longer comfort in ignorance, no safety in delay, no excuse for mediocrity. Discipline becomes your only ally. It is forged in repetition, in persistence, in the daily grind that most are unwilling to endure. You begin to understand that mastery is not a matter of talent or luck. It is a product of deliberate, relentless effort applied over time. The evidence you hold becomes a standard, a benchmark against which every choice is measured. Every action is tested for alignment with your ultimate objectives. And the chill, again, is the reminder that mediocrity lurks around every corner, that inconsistency is fatal, and that only unwavering commitment will allow you to leverage this knowledge fully. Isolation intensifies at this stage. Those who cannot follow your pace, who cannot comprehend your vision, naturally drift away. Their absence is not loss, it is clarity. It is the removal of distractions, the purification of your focus, the opportunity to operate without compromise. The chill reminds you that the path is solitary by necessity, because true transformation cannot accommodate indecision, negotiation, or divided attention. Solitude becomes a weapon. The sharper your focus, the faster your progress, the more precise your mastery. The power of the sixth revelation lies in its demand for transformation at every level: mental, physical, emotional, and strategic. You are compelled to evolve continuously, to anticipate challenges before they arise, to act decisively where others hesitate, and to build systems and habits that reinforce excellence at every turn. The evidence is no longer simply illuminating potential. It is the blueprint for dominance, a guide to becoming unshakable, unstoppable, and relentless in your pursuit. The chill that accompanies this stage is permanent, not as punishment, but as a constant marker of reality. It reminds you that mastery is earned, that progress is relentless, and that the world rewards only those willing to transform insight into execution. Once you embrace this, hesitation evaporates, fear diminishes, and every step forward becomes an assertion of power. The evidence has not just changed your perception, it has forced your evolution, and those who act on it will never be the same again.